What's going on, everybody? What is going on, everybody? We are going to be talking a little fantasy football today with my pals, Nathan Powell. Hold on. Football today with my pals, Nathan Powell. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. All right, I got to read. Dun, 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 You coming up, Nathan? Invite sent. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Nathan, are you coming up? Accept the invite. What's going on, everybody? Pressed request to come up, but I already invited you. We're going to be talking a little fantasy football today. What's up, John? I got a few buddies that I've talked fantasy football with for a long time, hosted pods with. They are going to be coming up shortly. What's up, John? Good to see you. All right. We're going to invite old Nathan up again. There he is.
Hello, am I here?
Bang.
Okay. Oh, it's not letting me do video. Whatever.
All
But
right,
we can hear me?
I figure I can hop off video and we can just do it like an audio pod or something like that. But people will start to stream in. They'll ask questions. And do you know where Dan is?
I mean, I was just talking to him on Google Meet. I couldn't figure out how to join on the computer, so I just joined on the.
Oh,
What? Hello? Did you
Hey,
lose? Did you lose me?
I didn't.
Okay, good.
So yeah, I don't have a stream key, and it only allows live studio on non Mac computers. Otherwise, you need a stream key, and then you have to join an agency. I've been battling for months to try to figure this out, and it's a no go. I tried to do what's the they can make windows on your Mac panels or something like that.
Idea.
So I tried to run it and I just couldn't get it to work. And then they told me I needed a stream key. I'm like, dude, all right, man. What's going on, guys? We're going to be talking Dynasty Fantasy Football today. We got some topics on the board. We got a few people coming up, and that's what we're going to be doing today.
Yeah, well, we can give Dan a couple more seconds, and if not, we can just get started. He'll hop in at some point.
Sweet. What's going on with you guys today? Thursday afternoon. Anything fun? Anything fun? I see the 7 of you in here. Oh. Still at work? I hear you, man. I hear you.
All right. So I don't know when Dan's going to be able to figure out his technology. My technology's a mess. Classic Dynasty dudes, nice trade cast fashion. A huge barrier.
This uh does he have TikTok on his phone?
I don't think he had TikTok until this morning. So I think that might be a barrier. But Dan's old, so there you go.
We'll make it work. We'll make
Sure.
it work.
All right. So do you want to just start on Browns QBs and see when Dan hops in?
Yeah, well, I want to do a quick intro, guys. This is Nathan Powell. I've been doing pods with him for many years. Fantasy football is our game, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So we appreciate you all for being in here. Appreciate all the interaction and all that good stuff. Probably going to hop off here. We're probably going to make this like an audio thing, and maybe I'll hop on. But you guys can see the topics up here. If you guys have any questions you want answered, you can throw it on the bottom there, and we will get to you. So yeah, hang out. If you have a song request, you can fire that in too. Browns quarterbacks, Nathan. What are we?
Yeah, no, and it's tough for me as a draft advocate, zealot, whatever you want to call it. But I still think with Shador slide and the Gabriel going over him, and I don't think this is any sort of a hot take right now, but I think I still have Shador over Gabriel, and I think that he's more likely to start multiple games in 2025. And it's because it's an interesting group because it's a team that doesn't have any quarterbacks that like should be starting in 2025. Particularly with Shador having the slide to the 5th round. Like if you take Shador in the 1st, like that's a very palatable like that's your QB or even like the early 2nd. But when you're taking 3rd and 5th round quarterbacks, none of those guys are expected to start in year 1. But because you have Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett and company, Dan's saying it's not Liam Join. I'm going to text.
Dan, if you're in here, we just sent an invitation. If that is Dan the man there.
Yeah. But anyways, so it's a very wide open team in terms of like who's getting the starts. I guess the other question is the environment around them decent enough to whoever is starting? Are they going to quote unquote have the ability to earn the 2026 role? Because that's really probably what both Gabriel and Shador, in terms of their dynasty value, is. Are they going to be able to do enough in year one to deter the Browns from taking a quarterback high? Granted, I don't think that the quarterback class in 2026 is very good. Like, I think when Arch Manning is like headlining the class and he really hasn't done anything at the college level, I'm not one that's like, oh, let's wait for 2026 for a quarterback, because it's very much an unknown there. Oh, let's wait for 2026 for a quarterback because it's very much an unknown there. And obviously third and fifth round picks are...
Dude, it's such an unknown right now. Like, Arch got benched for Quinn Ewers, you know?
Did he get benched for Quinn Ewers, or he just didn't beat out Quinn Ewers for the job?
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I love Arch and I'm all in, but am I really all in? You know?
No, yeah. I mean, I'm not like label him NFL Draft 101, label him Dynasty Superflex 101. Like, I'm not there with Arch at all. But I mean, theoretically, the tools are there. You want to see a little bit more, obviously, from a production standpoint in 2025. We'll definitely see from there. But I guess the question is, do we think that the Browns rookies will get the opportunity to like deter a 2026 draft pick?
Probably not, right? Nick Singleton, top 5 pick in 2026. Seems unlikely at this point, but I love the love. But in terms of Gabriel versus Sanders, it's probably neither, right? That's probably the right answer. I mean, round 2 and 3 is already a gamble. We got Shug, who kind of reminds me of that Kyle Trask range. But I don't know, man. I don't know that I'm buying either. And, I mean, if Shador doesn't get
Have you ever had three people at once with this, Russell?
What's that?
Have you ever had 3 people at once? Because Dan saying he was clicking the button and it wasn't letting him join.
Yes, I have.
Okay, so this is a Dan problem then. Let's see. How do I make a friend? Is there any way you can send him a link, or do we know?
A link? Wasn't he in?
He said he was in, but it wasn't letting him join. So I don't know. I was just trying to troubleshoot live.
I sent him another invite.
Celebratory, like, chanting whenever Dan gets in. I'm doubtful at the point. Now it says live access needed to join live.
Really?
Oh.
Wait.
Hello? Is Dan here? I thought I heard a noise.
Oh, so he can't join?
Why? What? Why can't he join?
I don't know. He said he can't get live access, is what you're saying? I'm a Browns fan, no expectations, so I'm never disappointed. John, we feel you, brother. We feel you. What do you think about Shador and all that?
But yeah, as far as like the dynasty prospects of Shador, like I mean, and obviously the Pac-12, Big 12, haven't been known for defenses in the last 10 or so years, or even longer than that. But the raw statistics for Shador were good in 2024: 74% completion percentage, 4,134 passing yards, 37 touchdowns. Um, so all those led the conference. So I guess one thing, as someone obviously you're big into draft capital as well, Russell, and I think so often when we try to quote unquote discount the draft capital, whether it's for character concerns or something potentially weird like this whole Sanders family thing, like, do you think that it's valid to use the his talent was more than a fifth rounder, but he was discounted for those reasons, or do you think it's just like
I
draft
know.
draft capital?
Oh man, with quarterbacks it feels different, but fifth round is like a true statement, you know. So, um, I would lean probably neither of them are ever going to do anything or start for any long period of time, but yeah, so I don't know. This QB class was a nightmare from the beginning, and it kind of ended exactly how most of us expected, right? Like, even the Cam Ward thing is fine, but it's just not a QB year. Uh, Building on that a little, are you taking Cam Ward 101?
No, 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 no. I would have Genty over him easily, and then I think that McMillan has like legitimate, like very long term top 10 wide receiver upside. That's why I have him above Ward. And I think that I've been for the last 2 years, especially with the slowish start from Bryce. Like I've been buying the Panthers weapons, and I think that obviously McMillan is now cemented as the wide receiver one there. So yeah, no, I have Genty one, McMillan two in Superflex, and then go to Ward at three. Where I think it's a conversation of like, I think that if you, and well, this kind of goes to a later topic as well, but if there were no quote unquote like defensive concerns with Travis Hunter, I think you could have a case for him above Ward as well in Superflex. But I still think that there's a legitimate case that Travis Hunter doesn't play 100% on offense. And if so, like, what is the dynasty / fantasy value of a guy who's not getting, full snaps at the offensive position?
Totally. I don't know what to do with Travis Hunter, man. I don't even want to rank him. I don't even want to have him in my rookie draft stuff because who knows what that's going to entail. I will say I'm very excited for Jacksonville, but it could end up being a 20-30 snap thing by year 3 on offense. So,
No, yeah, and well, but everything like basically post the after the pick was made, it seems like the Jaguars are saying he is a wide receiver. No, obviously
yeah,
there's no way for us to know how much of that is true, how much of that is like we're just saying whatever. And basically like the words coming out from like Travis Hunter's agent and Travis Hunter himself is that like he thinks he's a wide receiver before a cornerback. And so I'm less worried from like a like MFL positional standpoint in terms of like them potentially switching him back to corner. I'm less worried about that than I was pre-draft. It seems like he's a wide receiver to stay, but I don't think that means that he is cemented like career long wide receiver, like 90 to 100% of snaps type of guy.
yeah, and the running backs this year. I mean, Hampton is just an absolute monster, right? So, I mean, how do you feel about the Hampton on the Chargers?
Overvalued, especially if you're. I think if you're placing, I think if you're placing a big gap between Hampton as the first round pick with the Chargers and then the two early second round guys with Jukins and Henderson, like Talent-wise, I prefer Judkins and Henderson. Obviously, some draft capital stuff, as well as situationally, obviously the Chargers is a very good offense to potentially go into if Herbert can write things and stuff like that. So I if I can get Henderson or Judkins plus for my pick that is Hampton, I'm doing that personally. But that is the only like quote unquote over like he's still a top four. Like he's number two, but I think he's overvalued in terms of the gap between 2 and 4 and 2 and 3. But I don't think he's like overvalued in terms of like where he's getting picked, if that makes sense.
By the way, guys, this is Nathan Powell, a really bright fantasy football mind, a guy I go to with all my fantasy football questions when I have them, even with Dynasty, and he really knows his stuff. So you will hear that as we continue on here, but we do love Nathan's takes. All right. My next question is, how did Nathan handle the Emeka Egbuka Buccaneers selection? Because I thought that was gross initially, and the more I thought of it, it kind of grew on me a little, just because Evans is older and Godwin's older, but I kind of wish they just would have let Godwin go if they were going to do that.
Yeah, no. From a like team perspective, from a Bucs fan perspective, I mean, I didn't love the pick. I would have rather a pass rusher or a cornerback. But from a team building / like because I do think that Baker showed with the Browns, and obviously like he's a lot better than he was with the Browns at this point, but he is definitely the type of quarterback that needs an arsenal around him to be successful. Like, I don't think you can give a top 15 wide receiver core to him and be successful. You have to have like a top 6, top 7 wide receiver core for him to be successful.
Yeah.
And so I think that it would have made more sense if they didn't re-sign to a long-term extension Chris Godwin. But I do think at this point it's just like, let's give Baker Mayfield as many weapons as possible. A lot of people throughout the pre-draft process compared Chris Godwin to Emeka Egbuka. And so, like, theoretically, you're like, Godwin can mentor Egbuka, or, there is, and that's the other thing that, and we'll say over and over again, draft capital. But, like, how much are you after?
Let's go! Yes! Let's go!
Oh, dear Lord.
Yes! Let's go!
I didn't think it was going to happen.
I didn't think it was going to happen either.
I did not think the Dynasty Dudes cast is in the building.
I'm so happy. Oh, my God. Oh.
To be clear, you can hear me, yes?
Yes.
Right. I love you both.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I'll finish up the Bucs and then we'll go back to Dan's Shedeur take probably. But as far as the Bucs and team building, yada yada, I do think that this is some slight indication of Jalen McMillan's not like a legitimate like top 2 team wide receiver, because this is going to firmly put him as a wide receiver 4 on the depth chart for at least a year or two. McMillan had some nice touchdown production in year 1, but he is firmly backseated as the wide receiver 4 now that Egbuka is going to be the wide receiver 3 there.
Dan, what do you think of the Egbuka pick?
So, unlike Nathan, I actually really liked it. I mean, Evans has to retire soon, we would assume. All these 1,000-yard seasons are wearing down on the guy. We don't know what Godwin's health truly is, and Egbuka is essentially a carbon copy Chris Godwin. So if you aren't going to have Godwin at 100%, why not bring in more weapons? Like Nathan, I like McMillan as well. They have some other bodies, but I mean, Evans at the end of his career. Godwin could very well be at the end of his career if these injuries continue to pile up, or he's not the guy that he was pre-injuries. So I do actually really like it. Now, in the short term, it's probably going to sting just a little bit because you're still going to have to draft him in the first and rookie drafts in most cases. He should definitely be going over guys like Matthew Golden, uh, even some of those tier two running back. We can talk more about that later, but I really do think long term he can definitely be like a high end wide receiver two, maybe mid wide receiver two type, like Godwin has been for all these years. And I mean, Mike Evans has been Mike Evans. I don't think we can expect any kind of follow up on a Mike Evans career back to back like this. But I don't think there's any reason that Emeka can't kind of step right in for Godwin if he misses time.
We got Chauncey. We got Chauncey in the chat saying Higgins best day two wide receiver. What do you guys think of the day two wide receivers? Higgins, Burden, Trey Harris, Betch, Kyle Williams, this Isaac Tesla and Pat Bryant thing. What are we doing? Who are those guys?
I mean, I think that Higgins probably has the highest floor of the day two wide receivers. I do think that Luther Burden has the highest ceiling. He was, seen as a top end, like Devy wide receiver throughout his college career. And some potential like effort or like environmental concerns, kind of led to him dropping to the second round. Talking about like young offenses that are ascending, like the Bears, if things can break right, like if Luther Burden can be their wide receiver one or even wide receiver two behind DJ Moore, because he's not, aging per se. And people even think that DJ Moore could be on the trade block with, the selections that have been made and obviously Odunze as well. So, yeah, I mean, I love ascending offenses. I think that Luther Burden's probably the best talent at wide receiver, in the second round and third round, et cetera, et cetera. I actually think that Jalen Knoll could be an interesting pick in terms of people thinking that, like, obviously, like, he's the second wide receiver drafted on his own team. But that Texans offense has a lot of room to add stuff after Nico Collins.
Well, you said ascending offense in Chicago. Well, it'd have to be an ascending offense to be an ascending offense, Nathan. I think a lot of us disagree on Caleb Williams and whether or not he's going to be good. That's for another day. But I kind of like Jaden Higgins because what's better than having one Nico Collins? I think it's having two Nico Collins. Now, I'm a little bit concerned because of all the mouths there. Obviously, Nico Collins is your wide receiver one. He's going to be your main guy. I love Tank Dell, but now I'm really concerned about his long term with not only health, but just the way what they're doing with this roster. I mean, having Higgins and Nico there together is going to be awesome. And I was very much thrown off by the back-to-back Iowa State picks. So the Iowa State Texans are potentially here to stay. I do really like Higgins. I think, like you said, Nathan, I think Luther Burden probably has the highest ceiling of them all. And once Chicago realizes that Rome Odunze is a bum, he'll probably get more of the work there as well. Sorry, did I say that out loud? Well, I can't take it back, so it must be true. No, I like both of those guys quite a bit. I think Trey Harris is an interesting one just because of the potential for fantasy points. Quentin Johnston took a small step forward last year. Lad McConkey, kind of, as Denny Green would say, is who we thought he was. But I think if I'm going just purely value-wise, I think my favorite wide receiver post, round one is probably Kyle Williams stepping into New England, pairing up with Drake May. They did a lot of nice things in the draft as well. You bring in Travion Henderson, you add Kyle Williams, you get better up front as well. I think Kyle Williams could be in line for a decent target share because I don't see Stephon Diggs existing for 17 games there. I think if it's not an injury, his mental capacity may put him out on the streets. So we'll see. But I do like, as far as value goes, Kyle Williams, kind of that group. Jack Batch is a nice one, too. He's fun.
CP says Caleb Williams will have no excuses. That's right, CP. And Jack Batch, guys,
Is it Batch or is it Batch?
I don't know.
I don't know either. That's what I'm asking.
I don't want to have to know. I guess that's where I'm at. But I respect him, second round pick. But I'm like him, Tesla with a capital S, and Pat Bryant. I'm just like hoping, I don't have to learn more about these guys.
No, yeah, I mean, with Besh, it's purely a play on, well, what else is there in Las Vegas? But also, do they even have a quarterback in Las Vegas? So, yeah, there's the cat. Shout out to the cat. Also, Chauncey Billington, I'm pretty sure you can forget who Xavier Hutchinson is because I don't think he matters.
Oh my God, they have Hutch too. They just brought the whole squad.
Oh, I didn't think that they had off. Okay, I didn't put that together. But he would firmly be the third best Iowa State wide receiver on the Texans.
Yeah, and that's hard to do. So Kyle Williams is a tough one, right? Because Jalen Polk was basically a lemon, right? And I don't know if he gets cut or not, but it does seem like they were looking for a replacement pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Dan.
No, you're good. You're good. I was going to ask another question, but you do your Kyle Williams bit.
Yeah. Kyle Williams, 14 touchdowns, 1198. My only concern, and this is like not a analytical question or concern, but haven't we done this too many times with Patriots wide receivers? And I know it's a new regime, and I know it's all these different things, and we try not to quote unquote scout the jersey or whatever you want to call it, but how often are we going to fall for the random day 2 wide receiver that the Patriots draft and that never exists? Particularly one that spent 5 years in college. Day 2 wide receivers have a very, very high bust rate. So, I mean, I think that if you're going to swing for the guys that have wide open wide receiver cores, which he has. But I do think that fantasy Twitter may be getting slightly over their skis with the Kyle Williams excitement.
All right, hold on. Okay, so I get it. However, I think this is the first one in a while where New England actually went and got somebody that a lot of Dynasty Twitter, Fantasy Twitter actually like. Normally, it's the random guys that one person liked and they wrote 17 articles on them. a lot of people
Polk
liked
last year, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Polk was a one-off. And I may be a little bit biased because I also fell in love with Marvin Mims, Nathan, as you recall. And I get a lot of that from Kyle Williams, but I see Kyle Williams as more than just kind of that one-trick pony. I do still think Marvin Mims is more than that. But I think, yeah, the 5-year deal is tough. But going into that depth chart.
But it's also, and I say the 5-year deal thing, which is still bad, but also post 2020, we're seeing so many more players doing the 4th and 5th year that I think the data on players staying more than 3 years aren't going to bust as high as they were like in the mid 2000s, where it was like, oh, if you stayed longer than 3 years, you're a bum because you didn't go to the NFL.
Warren versus Loveland, guys. I'm stumped, and by stumped I mean I have to do Colston Loveland as my tight end 1. But I feel like Ben Johnson leveraged me. He brought me out to dinner and was like, "You have I'm gonna take everything." That's his new Laporta if he wants it, right? So what do we do with this? I mean, Tyler Warren was my clear tight end 1 before the class, and now it's, I mean, I don't know. I feel like, is there a take there where you still go Warren?
Not for me. I firmly prefer Warren, kind of going back to the take about the number of years in college and production. Tyler Warren didn't exceed 500 receiving yards until his 5th year in college. Obviously, huge year, 104 catches, 233 yards. So obviously a big final year. But when you look at Loveland, he had 2 years of 500-plus yards, 9 touchdowns in 2 years, 14.4 receiving yards per catch in 2 years. So I think there's a lot to like about Loveland's production with J.J. McCarthy, more so than whatever they were throwing out at the Michigan quarterback position last year. And then, of course, I prefer vastly Caleb Williams to Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones?
So for me, it's also still Tyler Warren. I have a little bit different take though, because for me, if you're looking back and you want Ben Johnson's new Sam Laporta. Now Sam Laporta was still a tight end one last year, right? But his production was vastly different, and it was vastly different because Detroit not only had Jahmyr Gibbs fall into their lap and he took another step forward last year, but Jamison Williams showed up and remembered how to play football. So yeah, 2023, Sam Laporta was a world beater. He was a godsend for that offense, but they didn't have a number two target. They had Josh Reynolds. They had Khalif Raymond. They had Jamison Williams for a few games, right? Now you have Colston Loveland going into a room with DJ Moore, who is a wide receiver one, Roma Dunze, who I think everybody has a different take on, but they use that much draft capital on that guy, and now you bring in Luther Burden on top of it, who they are going to use, and I think they're going to use Luther Burden the way that Ben Johnson used Jahmyr Gibbs in the passing game quite a bit. Now, you still have DeAndre Swift, unfortunately, to the chagrin of many people that wanted a real running back, but I don't see a world where Colston Loveland is getting wide receiver two targets in an offense. He's going to be third, fourth, potentially fifth fiddle if Luther Burden shows up the way that we saw in college. If that guy shows up, Loveland's going to get Cole Kmet usage. He's going to get 60 targets, and I mean, that's going to be probably the floor, realistically, which is great as a rookie, because we need to see something. But we all have this instant gratification of rookie tight ends now after, 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was like, oh, well, we got to wait on the tight ends. They don't ever produce as rookies. And then we've been spoiled over the last however long where it's like, oh, look at all these rookie tight ends that are all of a sudden the greatest thing ever. So I think we're going to have a slow start for Loveland. Long term, I think they're about the same. I think Tyler Warren can have a bigger role in the Indy offense regardless of who's playing quarterback, just because I don't have a ton of faith in Michael Pittman and Josh Downs. I think those guys are both like, mid-range wide receivers. I don't see high-end talent there. Whereas with Tyler Warren, I see an elite tight end. Colston Loveland, I see a very good tight end in a crowded offense.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely room for more targets in the Colts offense, even if there are, quote unquote, like less targets. Like, even if there's 600 targets for the Bears and 500 targets for the Colts, there's probably a larger target share out of those 500 with Warren than Loveland. So, I mean, in terms of like a pure volume game, that makes a lot of sense. In dynasty drafts, we try not to go purely based off of projected year one volume. It's like, oh, we have talent to evaluate or, situations to judge more long term. So there's definitely a little bit of that has Loveland as tight end one for me. But that's where I'm at with those.
Fellas, is Christian Watson cooked?
Yes.
He was cooked as soon as that one guy on Twitter said that he was the same as wide receiver one in Minnesota. Yeah, okay, buddy.
Oh my God, that's right.
That was the beginning of the end.
So they drafted Matthew Golden, but in the third round, they basically they were bringing in the new employee, and they're like, no, he's not going to replace you. Savion Williams, he looks exactly like you, but he's not going to replace you.
Well, I mean, if having like 3 or 4 wide receiver twos wasn't good enough, I think having 7 or 8 at this stage is going to be really great for Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers.
Ugh, gross. I like Savion. That just feels like a tough fantasy environment for him to jump into.
That's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare, but like the likes of like Romeo Dobbs are very beatable in terms of like targets and depth chart. And so like, yes, like it does seem like we're rostering 8 of the same player at this point, but at some point it's going to be like, oh, like this regime more recently invested this draft capital into Savion and Golden rather than Wicks and Dobbs. And Christian Watson is just done. He's going to get traded, might even get cut. I'm I'd be very surprised to see him like on the Packers roster in September. I think that the main four there are Wicks, Dobbs, and the two that were drafted.
Can we talk? I know this is a rookie draft thing. Can we talk about Dontavian Wicks for like 4 seconds? An elite separator. Dude's got hands like feet. Someone get him some meds for his attention span. If he could focus on any portion of his route, he would catch everything, hopefully, and score all of the points because he could be the wide receiver one in that offense. He's built like a wide receiver one in that offense, but dude's got holes in his hands.
Him and Dobbs have been pretty frustrating, huh? It's like they drafted good wide receivers, but they're not good, but they're good enough, you know? So, Scadaboo versus Tracy, guys. That is a weird thing. Or is it Scadaboo and Tracy?
Nathan?
I mean, it's probably both, but I think that in terms of like a buy sell, like I'm not really buying or selling Scadaboo at his price, which I'm assuming is like mid-second round pick right now. I think that it's fine. I'll take him at 206 if he's there, type of thing. But I think the more intriguing thing is if you are like shoveling the grave of Tyrone Tracy because they took Scadaboo at 403 or whatever it was. I think that's a mistake, and I think that the success he had in year one will lead to future carries. So I'm not like obviously I'm not giving up like first round picks or anything for Tracy, but if I can give like 201 for Tracy and 301 or something like that, where I can get a decent price on him because like they're assuming that Scadaboo is going to be the running back one, that is investment I'm willing to make. So yeah, I mean, I think that it's more so. I think Tracy is a buy than Scadaboo is a clear sell.
I've taken to calling him Scam Cadabo. This is reeking of Peyton Hillis wannabe Mike Allstott bit to me. And I know people want to chase that, and Mike Allstott was an absolute blast for those of us that are old enough to remember Mike Allstott. But not only does that not really play in the NFL these days, you're chasing significant outliers. Cam, athletically, aside from the jumping portion, which you can see a little bit of that when he plays, he can run through mid-level college talent. He's not running through NFL players like he was doing at Arizona State. I will never get on board with that. I get that they took him and it's in a decent situation. I think we'll see enough of him with Tyrone Tracy. But yeah, I mean, if Tracy is somebody you can go get for like a mid 2 or a future 2, I'm completely happy with that. I think he's well worth that. But going back to Scadaboo, that's a 10-foot stick type of prospect for me. I'm not touching him, and I think he'd probably have to fall into like the mid-third for me to even think about drafting him. I really don't see it. It's fun. Like I'll root for the guy if he's going, but chasing outliers, slow prospects that are good at a college level and clearly good at a college level, I just don't see him translating.
Bayshell Tootin, or however you say that. we got Trevor Etienne, Woody Marks, Jarquez Hunter, and Dylan Sampson. Guys, I loved Dylan Sampson before the draft, and they really just couldn't have made it worse. Going to Cleveland. I mean, maybe he splits with Judkins, and it's like a cool little combo, but unless there's a Judkins injury, we're kind of cooked here, right?
Yeah, no, I would not be investing in the stock of Dylan Sampson. Purely because I'm huge on both Judkins and Henderson at their prices currently. But also just like the other thing we talked about, the Browns offense, the Browns quarterbacks being a mess. Like if you're going to draft a team's RB2 that was a day 3 pick, you want it to be like, okay, this is like a high-flying elite offense, and the Browns are not that.
No. Far from it. Far from it. Dan, any thoughts on Samson? I don't know if you liked him pre-draft, but
I did. I thought he kind of projected more as like a 1B or somebody just to, scat backish, get in there and take some work off the other guy and make some plays. And I do think that Judkins Sampson could be a really fun 1-2 punch. I fear Sampson isn't ever going to be in a spot, like you said, barring an injury, where he's going to get enough volume to it be worth having. Cleveland, as far as like pass catchers go, I think he could get a little bit of work there. You still have David Njoku. They brought in Fannin as well this year, and you still have Jerry Jeudy, who we can talk about Jerry Jeudy too. Wildly underrated. Go get Jerry Jeudy. He's gonna have a bajillion targets. And Elijah Moore is still kind of flying under the radar as that random guy that'll continue to catch like 50 balls and do a lot with them. But I think Sampson can get some work in the passing game. I just find it difficult for Cleveland to want to take work away from Judkins and anybody else really that's there. It'll be interesting to see where Nick Chubb goes, but Judkins I think is in line for a really nice rookie season, assuming health.
so we also have Trevor Etienne in Carolina, where he's behind Chuba this year, and they might go to Brooks next year. I mean, are we done with Brooks too? I feel
No,
like
I mean, yeah, I think that Brooks, like anything that you're getting out of Brooks is a bonus at this point.
Totally.
I would assume he's done. The 2 major injuries in college, 3rd major injury as soon as he gets to the NFL. So yeah, I mean, I was a big buyer of Brooks this time last year because he was falling to 108, 110 pretty sure he was the first running back taken last year.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was loving the Panthers offense last year. So all those things put together, I was a big Brooks guy. But I think that if you're like, whether it's a startup or trade assets, like I think if you're buying Brooks right now, you're very, very likely buying something that's never going to happen ever, ever, ever. So, and I think that obviously not that 4th round pick, Trevor Etienne, is a large investment, but you did sign Chuba Hubbard to a long-term extension before Brooks even played it down. And then you select a 4th round pick of Trevor Etienne. So I think that anything you're getting out of Brooks is probably being a RB2, RB2B type situation. So definitely not a huge like fantasy situation there. I think Etienne's interesting as like an NFL RB2. And I think Hubbard is not like, and he's been very good the last 2 years, but I don't think Hubbard's like the RB1. Like he's not like a Gibbs where you can shut out like the guy behind him sort of thing. If needed. So I think you could see Hubbard as like a 15 to 18 carry guy, and Etienne, if he ends up being the team's RB2, as like a 5 to 7 carry guy. So I think he has a nice spot. And I do think that from a day 3 running back, like handcuff situation, like Etienne is one of the better handcuffs because if there is a Hubbard injury, I think Etienne is sliding into that RB1 slot.
So it's a weird one for me. The Brooks draft class, as far as the running back position goes, was pretty putrid, which kind of led to him having some good draft capital. It might be crazy to say, but I think if you put Etienne and Brooks in the same draft class, they'd be drafted pretty closely together. I think they do a lot of things similarly, and I'm always a sucker for an Etienne anyways. So whether it be Travis or Trevor, I'm probably going to be overdrafting them. But the upside of the two guys is pretty similar. I think what Trevor brings to the table is that pass catching ability. Not to say that Chuba Hubbard isn't that guy, but I think Etienne and Brooks are very similar in that capacity. And if it's a health issue, well, then Etienne's going to get more of those looks. I do still think Hubbard's going to be tough to knock off, especially in the short term. Assuming, again, we're assuming all these things as far as health goes. But if Chubbard's healthy, if Chuba is healthy, he is going to be the back there in the short term. But I can see a world where Etienne gets plenty of work if Brooks isn't ready to go. And like you guys said, I think it's probably close to the expiration date on this waiting time with Brooks.
When the Rams drafted Jarquez Hunter, it kind of felt like the Spider-Man meme with Kyron, Corum, and him. I'm like, they have their type. They go for their guy, and they have three really good running backs now that all kind of look the same, all drafted around the same range, and that feels like a decent, cheap handcuff. Nobody's going to want him because he's RB3, but maybe if they move on from Kyron, we got a little Corum Hunter action. Any thoughts?
I mean, I think this is slightly deja. Like I I have Jarquez Hunter in a couple of W leagues. Thought he was a decent day 3 type prospect, but we did this last year where we were like Corum was the better prospect than Kyron, so
Yeah, we
get
did.
the spot. And Corum didn't even sniff the field. So I mean, my thinking on the Rams backfield is it's Kyron's until proven otherwise. So. And he's been able to do a quote unquote like workhorse type load, from 2024, 2025 standards. So I think that Hunter definitely has some upside in that Rams offense. Definitely upside to be the RB2 because like Blake Corum did 0 in year 1. But I think any talk of like supplanting or like eating into the production of Kyron is probably premature.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a world where he like you said. I think it's Kyron's job to lose. However, Hunter being there and getting moderate draft capital, is he like the top 10, top 12 in the 4th round, something like that? I mean that's good. I think they've gotten more out of lesser prospects than Jarquez Hunter. I don't think anyone saw Kyron the way that we see Hunter now, or saw Hunter coming out. That one the Kyron thing just kind of came out of nowhere. So, but we're not chasing injuries, but it's a fun handcuff because they, like you said, they have their type, and Hunter's their type, right? I mean, he fits the mold perfectly.
Yeah. The round 5 guys, I imagine one of these guys works out, but I don't know. The Jordan James, Jaden Blue, Giddens thing. I mean, I'm sure one of them ends up doing something, right?
Well, Jaden Blue, I have him on way too many Devy rosters that I've been buying all spring. Not thinking that he was going to be like a day 2 pick or anything, but just the speed and the production. Like he's been decent at Texas. So yeah, I mean, I like Jaden Blue going to Dallas. I and every fantasy player ever have been fooled by the Dallas day 3 picks, the Deuce Vaughns of the world. So like, I don't have expectations for Jaden Blue to Dallas, but I do think that there is that upside. He has the speed. He's in an offense that needs the speed in Dallas. So like, and the running backs in that backfield are Dust and Miles Sanders, and they have one other that's Dust too. Forgot who it was.
Williams.
Yep, very much Dust. Dust.
2025 Jeremy Hill.
Oh.
So yeah, I mean, like 5th round pick, no real expectations of it. But if you told me like Jaden Blue has like 780 rushing yards, 150 receiving yards, and like 4 or 5 touchdowns, I'd be like, yep, that's Jaden Blue, 5th round pick.
And like, I see the vision with Jordan James, but they have Garendo, they have CMC. I'm just like, I see what you guys are looking at, but it's tough to get there,
I've got 2 words, potentially a name, and I'm just going to kind of leave it at that. Devin Neal. That's all I can say.
I'm in. It's going to be cheap. It's going to be fun. May not last long, but that's kind of like a night with me, right?
But speaking of offenses that are dust, the Saints might score 12 points the whole season.
Huh?
They're going to be great. Come on.
Speaking of putrid offenses, Devin Neal, the Saints might score 12 points the entire season.
Oh my God, I know.
That offense is going to be so bad.
If there's any Saints fans in the chat right now, we're sorry, but it's going to be a bad next 3 years for you.
The problem with the Saints obviously it's not a team building talk or podcast, but the issue with the Saints is that they have never just like ate shit. Like
Never, dude. Never.
they just keep on pushing the can down and down and down the road. They're going to be paying Derek Carr until he's 84 years old. So, like, they have to just go rock bottom, which they are. Like, from a team perspective, they're going to be one of the top 3 picks next year. One of the 3 worst teams. Like, they are going to do that, but they still are like pushing the salary cap down the road. Like, they should know, hey, this team's not going to be good. Let's eat as much salary cap as possible in 2025. But they're not doing that. I don't know why. I mean, the reason why is because like GMs aren't worried about the cap in 2027. They're like, I just need my job for 2025. But like, in order to build a team correctly, a GM has to like not be operating as if I'm making moves to not get fired next year.
Boys, Ricardo put my Raiders are looking up. Things are looking up for my Raiders. Dan, do you share that optimism?
For the who?
The Raiders?
Did they get Jamarcus Russell or something? I don't. I mean, Ashton Genty is. I mean, that's fun as hell, right? He could have 700 fantasy points this year because nobody else is going to be doing anything there. It'll be interesting to see how that team grows. I was very much anticipating them being in on one of these quarterbacks. Obviously, we didn't see them. I figured it was going to be inevitable that Shedeur was going to end up in Vegas with the Raiders, but that obviously didn't happen. So, yeah, Raiders is basically Genty or bust, but they've got to start somewhere, right? I mean, the defense, you still have Crosby. You're adding a little bit there as well. Offensively, we'll see in like 2 or 3 years, maybe.
Nathan, thoughts?
Raiders.
I did misspeak like 30 minutes ago. The Raiders do have a quarterback. It's Geno Smith, which, I mean, he's a good enough NFL quarterback.
He's fine, yeah.
But, like, it's like, and this is the case for all of the AFC, but, like, when you look at the AFC West, you're like, okay, we have Justin Herbert. Okay, we have Patrick Mahomes. And then the Vegas Raiders are like, oh, we have Geno Smith. So, like, you know, there's no scenario, and honestly, Bo Nix had obviously a huge rookie year, or, you know, relatively huge rookie year. Like, there's no scenario where the Raiders don't have the worst quarterback in the division. And in a league where, like, you know, oftentimes the best quarterbacks have the best team records, like, I just don't see a path towards anything unless it's like, okay, the AFC West is dominating the whole AFC, and the entire division is making the playoffs.
Oh, it's such a brutal run for having Harbaugh there now too is like another roadblock, but they should be competitive. All right, guys. Any other draft thoughts there? Like any other guys being replaced? I mean, Najee's kind of cooked, right?
No, yeah, not.
Kind of.
Yeah, okay, Najee is pissed. What do you think Najee was doing the day of the draft when he sees just, first round running back, so it's over. Why'd you bring me here?
Not Najee's like, oh yeah, like we might get an offensive lineman, might get some D line, and Marion Hampton, which I do think. I mean, who knows how honest front offices are. But honestly, Harbaugh seem kind of, you know, from the outside looking in, seems like an honest guy. Harbaugh might have told him when he was signing him, hey, like, we're signing you, but also, like, we love O'Marion Hampton, so if he falls to us, then we're taking him. Like, I mean, I doubt that exact sentence was made, but I wouldn't be shocked if there was some sort of intel, like, hey, like, you know, you're our RB1, quote-unquote, for now. But all that being said, Najee's entire dynasty value was based off of there's going to be volume there, and that volume is gone. So, like, we talk about selling low, and I don't even, like, what could you get for Najee right now? Like, if I could get, like, a mid-second, I would take it, but I don't think you can even get that.
I know. I was going to be in, too, and it just stopped me in my tracks. But
Right, no, because Najee is fine with with an immense amount of volume. He had immense volume in Pittsburgh. He was going to have immense volume in Los Angeles, and then first-round running back ends that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to talk about immense amount of volume in Pittsburgh, our boy Caleb Johnson. There we go. Round of applause, Caleb Johnson. Move him up your draft boards. I mean, he should be in my humble opinion, he should be right after Judkins and Henderson in pretty much every rookie draft in the mid first right there. Super flex obviously changes because you're going to get Cam towards the top of the board, but I don't see a world where Caleb Johnson is supplanted by Jalen Warren. I think they're going to use them effectively the same way that they did when it was Najee and Jalen Warren, because yeah, Caleb Johnson's a rookie, but you have something like 310 touches that are now unaccounted for when it comes to the what was that hole in that offense when Najee left, and now you fill it with another absolute banger in Caleb Johnson. So these two, Jalen Warren still is going to have some dynasty, some fantasy value, just because he's probably not going to lose his role. And in fact, it may grow a little bit with Najee being gone, because you probably don't want to bring in Caleb and be like, all right, you're going to carry it 350. So good luck, have fun. But you may want 250 out of him. You may want Warren to take more of the pass catching snaps. I think this is going to be another one of those offenses. If that offensive line can stay upright and not get completely blown through every single play, I think we're going to see another offense that's going to have two running backs that are going to be valuable enough to be startable. It's interesting to see, because there was a lot of weeks last year where it was one or the other. Najee would have like 25 carries for 8 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Warren would have like 12 targets for 6 yards and a touchdown, because the offense just really wasn't that great. But I think they upgrade at running back. Najee was a volume guy, and Caleb's a volume guy too. But I think he's bringing a lot more to the table than what Najee brought to the table, especially after those first couple of years. Najee it seemed like the tires were a bit deflated after all that volume so quickly on him.
But Dan, who's the quarterback?
It doesn't matter when you're handing it off, Nathan.
Is it Mason? Are we really doing that?
No, it's Aaron. Aaron is pulling a Favre and doesn't want to go to training camp, so he'll come rolling in late July, early August. Like, I guess I'm the quarterback of the Steelers. He already has the Steelers handbook, the Steelers playbook, and their handbook. He probably needs to learn both of those things. I mean, there's no other than
no way, right?
Unless it's trading for Jameis maybe, and the Giants weren't expecting to draft Dart in the first round, but I mean that doesn't make any sense. But there's some depth charts that have some extra things, like Jameis is a QB3. You don't obviously often see a signed guy and then trade them before September thing, but could be a potential, I guess.
So we just got RJ Harvey in the chat. And that's this guys, we've been playing Dynasty for a long time. That is you better have high conviction on RJ Harvey or you're not going to get him, because there's going to be one guy in every draft that's all in. It might be me. Where are you guys at with RJ Harvey? Because it's a tough one.
I thought it was interesting that RJ Harvey and Tyler Shugg live in the same senior community together.
Yeah. He's old.
No, I mean, with that age potentially comes a little bit of more maturity, readiness. We see a lot of these guys coming into the league at 2021 that very clearly aren't ready. RJ Harvey strikes me as a pro-ready back going into a Sean Payton offense where they very badly needed somebody after we had to suffer through watching Javonte Williams for 3 years, however long it's been. Good thing everybody spent a lot of dynasty value on that guy, though. I don't see Harvey as an elite back by any means, but I think he's going to have some sneaky production in the short term. The issue again is he's 24 going on 25, and the life expectancy of a running back post first contract is usually going to be in that 25, 26 range for a lot of these guys. And now Harvey, at the end of his rookie contract, is going to be 29. So, in a dynasty lens, he would be more valuable if that age was 21 or 22. Taking 2 years off the top is tough. But with that being said, short term, fantasy wise, I really do think RJ Harvey has a chance at being like RB2 or RB3 this year in as far as like the rookies go, because I don't think anyone's touching Ashton Genty. I think Hampton is a big if, just seeing what happens in that actual offense. But Harvey could realistically end up with one of the better rookie seasons here.
RJ, Nate?
Yeah, no, with Harvey, definitely some decent possibilities for volume, and he was a second-round pick. So, I have some reservations going back to Caleb a little bit with late third-round pick. A little bit less excited about that, even with the mediocre Steelers offense. But going to Harvey, huge volume opportunity in what was a decent offense last year. Bo Nix should theoretically get better from year 1 to year 2. And so, yeah, Harvey's not a guy that I'm trading up for right now, but definitely can be the type that when you're comparing day 2 wide receivers versus Harvey, more likely than not, Harvey's going to A, score more points in 2025, and then B, if he's scoring more points, is he also going to be valued higher 12 months from now than a lot of those day 2 wide receivers that aren't maybe Burden or Higgins?
Trey Harris is the last skill guy that's really been on my mind of pretty unclear what to do with that guy right now. I think I like it, but I also liked Mike Williams too, and that was a wild ride that I don't know that I want to go on again. So Trey Harris, I guess if he falls, or are you all in?
I don't know about. Oh, go ahead.
I don't have a strong take on Trey Harris. I think that there's some intriguing upside there, but kind of going back to one of the and obviously this would be an incorrect concern in retrospect, but one of the concerns about McConkey in year 1 was how much are the Chargers going to throw the ball, because Harbaugh is the pound the rock guy. I think that concern is still there because they just drafted a running back in the first round. So if McConkey is the wide receiver 1, which he is, and they're a run-heavy team that's running the ball 30 to 40 times a game, how much volume is the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 in Trey Harris getting?
Yeah, I think Trey Harris is, to me, going to be somebody that's a better NFL player than fantasy producer. I think there's a chance. We talked about it just when I originally joined, just a tiny little bit. But he fits in perfect in that offense between McConkey and Quentin Johnston. The three of those guys all do things a little bit differently, right? So getting him into that fold, I think he is going to carve himself out a role pretty quickly, but I think it's going to end up being getting defenders taken away underneath so Quentin Johnston can get open over the top, or so McConkey can be there on a crosser, right? Herbert's going to have whatever targets he needs. They're going to be throwing the ball, I would imagine, quite a bit, but I don't know that there's any guarantee for Trey Harris here to have a lot of those looks. I think they're in love with Ladd McConkey. I think he's going to continue to do very well. It'll be interesting to see if Quentin Johnston takes another step forward. He was very bad, obviously, as a rookie. We started to see some signs of life last year. If he takes that kind of final step into, an NFL professional wide receiver, it's going to be tough for Harris to get a lot of looks. If Quentin Johnston can do what a lot of people thought he could do, I'm still very hesitant on that. So I would potentially see Harris getting some of those looks that Quentin Johnston would normally be getting. But I see them spreading the ball out quite a bit. I don't know that it's necessarily going to be super fantasy viable versus actual NFL viability.
Harbaugh hates our fantasy games, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
He really does. Jackson Dart?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean,
I don't know, dude. I like Dable. I think he's a good coach. I just don't know if Dart's your guy. Dart's the one, dude. I don't know.
I mean, we saw signs of life in college, right? There was a time that he was kind of next up, or at least kind of in that top conversation for one of these classes coming here. So, I mean, it's in there. I don't know that getting him in the first is a little bit wild, but I think the Giants kind of had their hand forced into that. I mean, they had to do something. It's been such a dumpster fire at quarterback for them, and yeah, I mean, they had to try something. So it can't get worse with Dart. I think it's going to be a bit before we see him, to be honest.
Yeah. I think I'm out, but I'm intrigued. Nathan, are you?
I'm definitely not out. I'm probably, this happens every year with the first round quarterbacks that get undervalued in Superflex rookie drafts. Like, I'm much more likely to get Dart in a rookie draft. This is kind of like minutia, but I'm much more likely to get Dart in a rookie draft than I am a rookie auction. Because in a rookie auction, I can allocate the funds however I want. I can spend up for a Burden, or I can spend up for, theoretically Genti, et cetera, et cetera. But if we're in a draft and like Dart's sitting there at 202, and I'm like, okay, I can do Dart,
Okay.
or I can do day two wide receivers that aren't the top two in Higgins, Burden. Like, if I'm comparing them to day two wide receivers or day three running backs, I am forced to take the first round quarterback.
I'm with you there. Yeah, and I guess my take is kind of the common one on Dart, where it's like, oh, I'm out. So it may be Josh Allen was that guy once upon a time, right? So yeah, I hear you. Overall, this rookie class, guys, grade wise, the whole class, running back stacked. The rest is. Where would you rank this one compared to like all classes? Like a C plus, B minus, or because the running backs high?
I think the running backs probably are going to keep it in like the B-ish range. I see a lot of
Yeah.
NFL starters in this class, or like 1A, 1B kind of guys. I think the biggest issue I have with this class is the wide receivers. I think Tet's going to be okay. I'm not in love with him. I think Hunter is going to end up being the best wide receiver in the class, and I think he plays the majority of offensive snaps in a very slim amount on defense, because I think he's a difference maker, and I think he's an elite wide receiver prospect, and he's a very good cornerback prospect. The problem there is you're going to get favorable looks on the side of the ball that you see all these guys switching positions because they're better at the other one. Travis Hunter's a better wide receiver than he is cornerback. Very good at both. But I think Hunter's going to end up being the top wide receiver, and he doesn't even play it full time potentially. So that's a scary one for me. But because of the depth at running back, and honestly, I think very quietly the depth at tight end could keep this class up a little bit. And you know how much Nathan and I love tight ends, but there's like 5 of them that could very well be relevant, if not more. You look at the high end with the Tyler Warren, Colson Lovelands. I'm even looking down at like Mason Taylor, Elijah Arroyo could be in for some work in Seattle. And if Njoku ends up moving on in Cleveland and Harold Fanning can get in there, I mean, you're effectively drafting the Njoku replacement. Like, he's that guy. He can do that. I don't know about Terrence Ferguson. I think maybe that one was a little bit off, but there's 3 to 5 tight ends here that could be decent fantasy producers in a tight end landscape that is just seemingly always bad. Even though we've got a lot of quality tight ends in the league right now, it's always an absolute nightmare finding fantasy points at the tight end position.
That it is, and this is a very good tight end class. Mason Taylor. I mean, some of these guys I was like, really? And then they went Terrence Ferguson, I do like. So I'm with you. Um. Well, we are pushing the hour and 15-minute mark, guys. I'm
Well,
glad to stay on, but
20 minutes of that was Dan trying to was trying to get on. But yeah, no, I do have to hop off eventually. But yeah, no, this has been really fun, guys.
cool. Yeah, I don't know what you guys want to do. We can keep firing away. I mean, it's just a live, but in terms of like this for us, I'll get the live highlight. I'll probably post this on YouTube, and I'll probably post a few highlights of analysis on the old talk here. But yeah, that's the rough plan for now.
There you go.
Well, this is a lot easier once I figured out how to do this. Again, I'm too old for this crap, but
Dan, my favorite moment was when you popped on, and I was like, yes, let's go.
if assuming that people don't hate me and Nathan like they did when we were recording our very own podcast that used to get tens of listens, this is a fun way to kind of stay around in the space because it takes a lot less effort, especially if you do all the work,
Dude,
Russell. It's super easy.
it's so easy. You just hop on, and like we can just throw up a background and hop on whenever we want, pretty much. So this doesn't have to be like a formal thing. We can just hop on and talk shit, kind of. So
I've got some really good pictures of Nathan that would make a good background for this
please,
live.
oh,
Yeah.
honestly, we could do a live just on Nathan's YouTube video. I'd be down for that.
I think
Can we
what
do that?
what we should do is break down the original football film on Nathan trying to tackle the dummies and
All
all
right,
of that.
but non-joking, I think that needs to actually happen.
Nathan, we'll get your family in, and you can
Yeah,
just watch
well,
live. We'll get your wife and your daughter in to go over the film with us, so you don't have to be embarrassed.
get some chicken subs, and we'll break it down for the fam, Nathan.
There you go.
I'll buy Publix for the family. You got it.
Yeah.
I wish.
I know you don't have them there anymore, do you?
Hundreds of miles away.
Oh,
I'll have them flown in on a private jet. Don't worry, it'll be worth it.
There you
oh
go.
my god!
All right. Well, thanks, guys. We'll head out.
All right, Nathan. I'll catch you guys later.
All right, see ya. Bye, Chad. Thanks for being here.
All right, see you guys.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, that was my my buddies Dan and Nathan. They are really bright guys in the space, so give them a follow. I'll be tagging them in some of their stuff for later. But yeah, really cool they came on today, and we'll probably have them on again and do some random stuff. So for everyone who tuned in tonight today, appreciate you guys. Might do something later, but we'll see. And that's the vibe over here. And we'll catch you guys later.